Thank you, Chair. I want to just clarify a few things in the chronology and your role and where you say decisions were taken over your head. The key moment, it seems to me, where things go horribly wrong is that on the 21st of June, there is a letter from Chief Mappier addressed to yourself, to Advocate Behari, and to Lieutenant Colonel Erasmus. And it essentially says, we have to serve the charge sheet by tomorrow, the 22nd of June. It's at page 180 of the Mappier bundle. We discussed it yesterday. It says, we have to serve the charge sheet by tomorrow. Please serve the charge sheet. Tomorrow is the last day. Now that's addressed to you and it's addressed to Advocate Behari. I understand your evidence to be that sometime between the sending of this letter and the following day, the 22nd, a decision was taken at a meeting of Advocate Behari, well, not at a meeting, by three people, Advocate Behari, Chief Mappier, and the accounting officer, that this prosecution was not going to proceed. Now, is that what your evidence is? That either later on the 21st or on the 22nd, those three officials took the decision, we are not going to prosecute Brigadier Mkwanazi?
Yes, I did say yesterday it's my evidence. I even said when you check, when you look at the Chief of Police, I think Rivers Peace and Kolaneza, there's where it says as well that I think Kolaneza is saying the chief called him and said, Dr. Mashazi, Chief of Police and Advocate came, he met, and that decision was made. So I'm sticking by that.
But you had a letter. You had a letter on the 21st that said, tomorrow's the last day. Please serve this charge sheet. Tomorrow is the last day. What did you do in response to that letter?
I said yesterday, I don't recall receiving that letter. I said, I don't recall. I've seen somebody signed for it, but that didn't look like my signature. I think it's indicted, but it doesn't look like my signature.
It looks like someone called Engelbrecht. Does that?
Engelbrecht.
Mr. Chaskalson, Mr. Behari said that was someone in his office, Engelbrecht.
I take that back. At any rate, when was it communicated to you that the decision had been taken by the accounting officer and by Chief Mappier not to proceed with this disciplinary process?
I've said earlier on where I got to know issues of certain events that happened in this particular case. It was after August 2023 when I started collating information myself.
So are you saying that up until August, you didn't know that the accounting officer had said this prosecution must stop?
Yes.
So what did you do between June and August when, as far as you were concerned, there were very serious charges that needed to be brought against Brigadier Mkwanazi that an external law firm had drawn up at some cost to the city, and that were waiting for someone to serve a charge sheet on Brigadier Mkwanazi?
I think already we debated this with the commissioners, and it was clear that my report didn't do anything between whenever this happened, up to when I instituted the investigation in August.
So you took no steps to push the matter forward between June and August?
Ekurhuleni has got many cases. I might not have taken step on this matter because firstly, as I said earlier on, the delegations at the time, they were between EMPD and Mr. Nqiza. The only time I revised delegations, it was after August 2020, around August 2023. Yes, steps could have been taken, but some of the issues I missed. They happened outside my space. So nothing I would have done about it.
I just need clarity in that regard, because it seems to me that the job of serving the charge sheet was always a job of your department. Simply serving a charge sheet to start proceedings was your department's job.
We've discussed this yesterday, where in the evidence, in the form of emails, I've said that I've realized there were irregularities. The charge sheet was provided to Mr. Nqiza as early as 15th June 2024. And after that has happened, they were back and forth. Ultimately, the charge sheet was never, ever submitted to Mr. Mkwanazi. And I've said yesterday, I'm really trying to be slow. I'm normally a person who talks fast, and I'm realizing it's not doing justice for me. I've said yesterday, the first email from Majang Inc. said save via an email followed by physical saving. Mr. Mkwanazi was in the system. The emails of Mr. Mkwanazi were working. It could have been served. Even when you make amendments, you still make amendments, you make them up to a disciplinary process as you go, as long as it hasn't been concluded. That process, indeed, it was irregular, and it's an area of improvement. And we will improve on it. And that irregular, again, it needs to be understood that it could have been an influenced irregularity. I've already spoken about Dr. Mashazi. One thing I picked up when I was analyzing this, I couldn't understand that between the Chief of Police and Xolani Nqiza, what could have transpired. Because in Mr. Nqiza's statement, he says, on the day of upliftment of the suspension, he had a conversation with Mr. Julius Mkwanazi downstairs my office. So all these things that happened, Chair, influenced from executive authority down to my division. It's things that we learn from. But it's difficult to say the serving of charge sheet, I would have dealt with it without changing the delegations, number one. But most importantly, if decisions are made by the accounting officer, especially on my contract, I don't know of Mr. Nqiza, but in my contract it's very clear on termination that you don't follow an instruction, there will be a misconduct. But I've never said the charge sheet must not be served. I'm really trying to be slow. I've never said let's not serve the charge sheet.
You've repeated quite a number of times that we don't understand the complexity of your position. You've repeated since yesterday that if you don't follow instructions, it has consequences from your superior. Were you instructed by Dr. Mashazi not to institute or to proceed with disciplinary hearing, a disciplinary process against Commissioner Mkwanazi?
Chair, I want you to understand this. The instruction, it did not happen with HR. It happened with Dr. Mashazi, Advocate Kemi, and
No,
Chief
no,
Mapimpi.
no, Ms. Kosheka, we don't have endless time. I'm asking you a straightforward question. Don't repeat what you've been telling us. You've been repeating since yesterday that Dr. Mashazi, Chief Mapie, and Mr. Behari, they met and they agreed that they're not going to proceed with the disciplinary. So please don't repeat that. I've asked you a direct question, and I started off by explaining the basis on which I'm asking my question. Since yesterday, including a few seconds ago, you keep saying, if you don't follow instructions of your superior, I think you said you can even be terminated. You said something like that. And all the time you're referring to instructions from your superior, Dr. Mashazi. Hence my question. And my question is simply this. Did you get an instruction, based on what you're saying, did you get an instruction from Dr. Mashazi not to institute or continue with disciplinary action against Commissioner Mkwanazi? It's either a yes or no answer.
Chair, on the engagement of, I think, 22nd August, after the Bikli matter, because I think the question was different initially, that between the charge and whenever, why I didn't do anything.
Now I'm asking you a different question, Ms. Krasheka, please. Now I'm asking you a direct question. Did you or did you not get instructions from Dr. Mashazi not to discipline Commissioner Mkwanazi?
On the 22nd, if I'm not mistaken, of August, when we were called into a meeting, Chair, in the discussions that were taking place there, it became clear what was the appetite on this matter. Hence, when there was an instruction that let's change the disciplinary procedure. And I take full accountability, no more Xolani Ngceza taking accountability. I then took a forensic investigation process to find a way of protecting me without exposing myself.
Let me stop you there. You say in the meeting you've still not answered my question, but let me work with what you've said now. You say in that meeting it was clear what was the appetite. What was the appetite? According to you, as you saw it in this meeting, what did you see to be the appetite about this disciplinary process?
I would want to attest to what the Chief of Police has said, that it started to look that certain people are targeting Mr. Mkwanazi.
What was the appetite, Mr. Shega? You were in the meeting, you formed a view there's a particular appetite, whatever you mean by that, about this matter. What was the appetite?
The appetite is the same as the legal opinion.
No,
Can I finish, Commissioner?
No, Mr. Shega, don't do that. I'm asking you a question that is, it's a second question that I'm asking you that you're not answering. All to do with the instruction from Dr. Mashazi. That's what I'm asking you. You've now introduced the appetite, it became clear. That's your language, right? And you say that when you should have answered my question about whether or not you got an instruction, you choose to speak of an appetite. Now I'm asking you, what was the appetite that you descend out of that meeting to do with disciplining Commissioner Mkwanazi?
Thank you, Commissioner. I am praying that Commissioner Balo, you're going to allow me to finish. One of the discussions or of the meetings, one of the key points in that meeting was there was a discussion that took place, and there was an agreement that this whole thing is going to be stopped. I won't have the exact words. This whole issue of Mr. Mkwanazi is going to be stopped. Why is it still pursuing? And I got shocked because, as I say, majority of the times I'm not involved in these things. And I've been pressed, I've said that even on labor relations cost management. It's been the issues I've been dealing with. You are not managing, I've said this yesterday, that Linda, you're not managing your department. Things are happening beyond you. Discussions have taken place, we're going to stop this matter. When I'm talking about the complexity, and I'm going to end here.
Just before you go to the complexity, so the appetite was not to pursue the disciplinary process. That's what the appetite was. Please, yes or no?
Yes, Chair,
Yes,
it's
let's stop
confirming
there.
the 20...
Can we stop there? Can we stop there? You
20
said
June
yes.
later,
That's
okay.
what the appetite was. And was this the appetite of Dr. Mashazi?
That's what I'm saying, she was chairing the meeting.
It could have been the appetite of anybody who was in attendance. Was this the appetite of Dr. Mashazi?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, you never got an instruction. I think we all understand what you mean or it means when someone says, I got an instruction. Just like you got an instruction that you told us earlier yesterday, that you got an instruction about the suspension, for example. So should I take it from your answer, or should we take it from your response to my direct question? And you now speaking about an appetite in a meeting, that it means you never got an instruction from Dr. Mashazi not to discipline Dr. Mkwanazi, Commissioner Mkwanazi. Whether in writing, whether in a meeting, Dr. Mashazi never instructed you not to discipline Commissioner Mkwanazi.
I'm going to respond to it, Chair, but can it just not end to a yes or a no? I need to give a context.
Yeah, I'm hoping that at the end of it you will have a yes or no, so you can give the context.
Thank you
it's
so
fine.
much. The discussion says, I had a discussion with the other colleagues. We agreed this matter must stop. Why is ER continuing? You are not taking ownership of your department, Linda. We have agreed we must stop this matter, and why is it still continuing? Why it hasn't stopped? You cannot control your people in your division. It might not have directly said you stop, but it's asking me why you haven't stopped. If it doesn't stop, you're going to account. So I don't know if that means an instruction, but it's a very clear tone that says if you don't stop, you're going to account. You are also not managing. The labor relation costs are increasing. The labor cases are increasing.
Yes.
You must stop.
You see, it would be bad if we were to say in our report, Dr. Mashazi instructed Ms. Kasheka not to discipline Commissioner Mkwanazi, if in fact that's not what you say to us. That's why it's important to understand what are you saying. But I think you've answered as best as you can, or as best as you are prepared to answer, and I'm happy to leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, as I say, it was maybe it is an instruction. It was an instruction, let me not say that. But the way it was said, it wasn't just say, stop this disciplinary hearing. It says, why are you not controlling your department? Why is this matter still continuing? Whereas I've stopped it. You're not managing your department. Hence I'm saying it becomes complex. It wasn't just, it says stop this hearing, but also manage your department. So I wanted to give that context that there was clear that you must stop this hearing.
Mrs. Tasheka, as observed by Commissioner Baloyi, from yesterday to today, you have repeatedly said that the instructions of Dr. Mashazi or the accounting officer must be complied with. Can that be said appropriately by an HR practitioner, especially one at the highest level like you?
Chair, let me also remind you what I said yesterday. When discussions are taking place and instructions are made, we deliberate. And I've said yesterday, majority of the time, I find that she already has a legal position. I'm not sure where she gets to be capacitated. We debate on issues. Ultimately, Once I could see that she has her point and it's taken, you can't move. I'm going to make a sensitive example just to give another context. When the matter of a chief came, for instance, saying, let's settle, I still went. And I said, from the humanitarian point of view, he's left with less than a year. I spoke to the lady who was involved in the matter, she agreed. I go to Dr. Mashazi and I said, let's settle this matter. She agrees. 30 minutes, 40 minutes later, I'm called again. We are not settling because she now has a different view from the legal side of things. I think that's the complexity I'm trying to explain, that from HR side of things, we'll do things in a particular manner. I will advise in a particular manner. And I've said yesterday consistently that there's HR who will advise. After HR, there's legal. And ultimately, once legal has made a decision for that institution, it's binding and it's got its own risk, and one person can account, it's legal, and the accounting officer. And I'm appealing to the commission that you hear where I'm coming from. I do advise. I think if you haven't seen my character today, I don't know. I'm a person who will be persistent, who will be advising. But ultimately, when a person has made a decision and is your boss, there's little you can do. An example that would have happened, maybe it would have been better than coming here. Let's say my report says, investigate why the DC of Mr. Mkwanazi has not happened, but we had a meeting. I won't be here. Maybe it would have been a blessing. I can guarantee you, she would have instituted a DC on me. Maybe it would have been better than coming here.
I'm beyond the stage of you giving advice. I'm at the stage of an instruction. Let's assume that this is after the advice that you keep referring to. Then there is an instruction. What you say is, once an instruction, I will refer you in a different context, but it still makes the same point. Different in the sense that it's not in the context of what Commissioner Baloyi was engaging you on. I'll take you to page 22 of your latest statement, paragraph 65, fourth line. There you say, when instructions are given, I will say by, you say at, I'll say by, given by the accounting officer, one has to comply. So my question is a simple one, and I hope you will give a very brief answer. My question is, can something like this be appropriately said by an HR practitioner, especially one at the highest level like you? Can you say that? Once the accounting officer gives an instruction, I just must comply. Can you say that? As a senior HR practitioner?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've given a context. I think when you write the statement, you won't necessarily put everything with the hope that other things will come and talk to it. I will rephrase my statement, Chair. What I was trying to say is when a reasonable instruction is provided, you must comply. I would like to revise that. And number two, Chair, if we were to talk about the character of Dr. Mashazi, I would like you to even, for instance, call the highest authority here. Call the executive.
I'm not sure that we want to go there. You've just said what you meant to say, and you are now seeking to revise, is that what must be complied with is a reasonable instruction. I think that's enough.
Yes, a reasonable instruction. But Chair, I wanted to say where we didn't do right, the character as well, you might need to call one of the senior people who are beyond here to come and speak about the character itself and the complexity I was talking about. Thank you, Chair.
But I will not let you avoid this that easily. How you phrased it appears to have been quite conscious and deliberate. You see, it actually does make reference to reasonable. It's not as if you did not think about reasonable. Let me read the full thing. I stopped midway. You say, when instructions are given by the accounting officer, one has to comply, comma. That's a standalone clause in that entire statement, and it's full and complete in and of itself. And it suggests that you are saying, in fact, it's not even suggesting, it is actually saying that you just must comply under any circumstances, reasonable or unreasonable. Do you agree that that is what that means? Before this idea of you wanting to change this comes in, do you accept that that's the meaning of this up to the comma, comply, comma?
Chair, I've requested that my statement be amended, Chair, to talk to reasonable, as you say, HR person.
Yeah, I've said I'm going to take you up. In fact, I'm going to engage you quite seriously on that you cannot easily seek to change the statement in accordance with what you are saying now. And for now, I just want you to agree that that part up to comply, comma, means exactly what I've said to you. Do you agree, yes or no?
Chair, you said I've intentionally wrote it that
I'm
way.
coming to that.
Okay.
I'm coming to that.
Okay.
Do you agree with what I've just said now? Up to comply, comma. Do you agree
Yes,
that it means what
it's-
I've said? You
It
agree?
means what, Chair?
What I have said to you, I have said, when you say, when instructions are given at the by the accounting officer, one has to comply. So I say to you, I read that to mean you just must comply whether the instruction is reasonable or not reasonable. At this stage, you are not where you want to change that to bring in the idea of reasonableness. But do you agree that as it stands, it means you just must comply whether reasonable or unreasonable? That's my question now.
Chair, I've requested that the statement...
Yes, I get your request to change and bring in reasonable, but do you agree that
No,
it
I
means...
don't agree, Chair.
What does it mean?
Chair, I'm saying there's an error that happened, and I want to take full responsibility of the error.
Before the error and wanting to change, do you agree that it means what I've just put to you?
The way it's written
Yes,
currently.
the way it's written.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, thank you. Now, my point is, you said what you said here consciously and deliberately because it's not as if the idea of reasonableness was lost to you. You actually do refer to quote-unquote reasonable in this same sentence. You say after the comma, especially if they seem reasonable. So it's not as if you did not think of reasonableness. So first part, you say you must comply under whatever circumstances. But then you make the emphasis that, but you must especially do so if the instruction is reasonable. But you're basically saying otherwise, once an instruction comes from the accounting officer, you comply.
Chair, I don't agree with that, Chair. I think, hence I said earlier on, is the interpretation, and I don't like the statement that I'm going to use. I've seen people using it, and it's probably going to be the first time I use it.
Yes.
I think in the law space, you will probably have to do communications and English as part of your curriculum. In other areas, Chair, we really struggle with English, and what we're learning from this commission and other places, we learn every day, Chair, that we need to continuously improve on business English or language, on legal language. And I'm glad, Chair, that you do mention it, that after the comma, you do talk about reasonable. And I've learned from that. I had an example where we had a legal opinion on the appointment of the GCFO Ekorulin. When we met with the lawyers in a particular prescriptive clause that was written, they taught us that where a comma, just putting a comma, it means it changes the whole definition. Where there's a full stop and then there's a continuity, it changes the whole definition. Hence, I'm going to say, Chair, we learn every day. But I'm glad you raised it, that I did put reasonable, It could have been the way it was said. And as an HR practitioner, I can do better. I'm not undermining my English, but as I say, legally, in terms of how we write, we can learn from that. But I'm glad you mentioned it, Chair, that there is reasonable. And hence I said yesterday, I do debate with the accounting officer. But majority of the time, you realize that they tend to incline on the legal opinion than an HR opinion. In majority of issues I would have advised, we agree, the following day you are told, no, because legal has spoken. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, I thought it was my English that you were suggesting is lacking. So towards the end, I see that you are saying it is yours. I wanted to also, when I said you deliberately and consciously said what you say in paragraph 65, you actually do say the same thing, exactly the same thing in paragraph 30. So there as well, you are basically saying, once an instruction comes from the accounting officer, you just must comply, reasonable or not reasonable. Is it paragraph 30? I hope it is. Sorry. Yes.
Chair, paragraph 30 reads, based on the instruction of the accounting officer, my advice and guidance would have been based on that. If the charge sheet is ready to be served and the investigation concludes, there is no need to redeploy the employee to any other position. If you remember, I said yesterday, when we started with this conversation, she spoke about
Sorry,
the...
Ms. Kasheka, you're reading 30 from your old statement.
Oh, sorry.
So maybe let's find it in there, because we've been working off the new statement. Let's find it there. Paragraph 65? 65.
Oh, 65.
Yeah.
Based on the instructions of the accounting officer, my letter sought to advise and guide where, based on that, if charge sheet is already served and the investigation is concluded, there is no reason to deploy to another position unless dealing with financial related issues. Again, when instructions are given, one has to comply, especially if they seem reasonable. And I think we're repeating ourselves, Chair. As I said that, I would like to rephrase that, to read that, just a reasonable instruction. And again, my paragraph, it ends by saying once more, one has to emphasize that my guidance was never directed anyone to stop the proceedings. So even that sentence, Chair, it talks about the procedure, its fairness, and how HR operates. But I will rewrite the issue of the legal instructions or lawful instruction.
I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Chair.
I will just refer you to the paragraph I wanted to refer to in the old statement is paragraph 31. Yes, old statement or first statement. It says exactly the same thing about complying with an instruction from the accounting officer. And it's on that basis there that I say you are quite consistent on this, and that therefore you made a conscious and deliberate decision to say that you must comply with what the accounting officer says. I will leave it at that.
Okay, can I just say something, just one? Having looked at the charge sheet, and based on what you say here, that if the accounting officer gives reasonable instructions, they must be complied with. Do you accept that it would have been an unreasonable instruction to say don't proceed with the charges, especially bearing in mind how serious the 5 charges are?
Thank you, Chair. I accept it will be unreasonable. Hence, now after there's a new accounting officer. The DC is commencing. It has commenced again.
Yeah, but that creates the impression that you were not willing to act until there was a new accounting officer, that you were prepared to wait for 3 years. And if Dr. Mashazi was still there, you would not have done anything because you were scared of her. That's the impression you are creating now. Because you are saying in November 2025, because there was a new accounting officer, we could proceed. But these things date back, the allegations against Mkwanazi. They are February 2023 allegations. We are now in 2026. Just wanted to make that point. Thank you, Mr. Cheskalson.
Thank you. We've discussed the failure to proceed with the charges. I just want to clarify two earlier decisions that you were involved in, and I'm hoping to be brief. The first is the decision to uplift the suspension. That is a decision that is communicated in a letter that is sent by you. I understood your evidence to be that that was done on instruction of Dr. Mashazi. Is that correct? Did I understand it correctly?
I didn't hear the part of the letter that was signed by
That
me.
the withdrawal of the upliftment of the suspension
Yes.
was done on the instruction of Dr. Mashazi.
Yes, remember I spoke to that evidence leader.
No,
and I said-
I just wanted to clarify that I hadn't confused more than one, but I don't need you
Oh,
to
okay.
go further there. But what I do want to do, because there's a direct conflict between what your evidence is in that regard and Dr. Mashazi's, and I need to put to you what Dr. Mashazi says. So if one goes to page 31 of Supplementary Bundle 2, there is an exchange between Commissioner Baloyi and Dr. Mashazi. Do you have page 31? Sorry, yes, it's Supplementary Bundle 1, not Supplementary Bundle 2. I apologize.
Oh, this one. Okay.
Do you have it?
Yes.
So if you see roundabouts page line 11, the line numbers are on the left-hand side. Commissioner Baloyi says there is also testimony that you were involved in the discussion or in the decision ultimately of Ms. Masheka to uplift his suspension and have him return to work. That is why the interest in my questions, at least, that you're copied on an HR matter that involves a junior employee. And there are these allegations that we've had that you had a direct involvement in how the disciplinary process against him eventually was aborted and scuppered. Her response there is, I want to state categorically that I did not participate in the suspension nor the upliftment of the suspension. I deny all the facts that they indicated that I participated. So she's saying she had nothing to do with the decision to uplift the suspension. And that passage should also be read with a passage on on page 22 of the same file. There at the top of the page, Advocate Selo says, your response to that question is reflected in paragraphs 85 and 86. You may summarize for the record what your response is. Dr. Mashazi says, my response is that I did not get involved in this because Julius at that point was a junior official. I have no knowledge of this and therefore I cannot make further comments because it was done at the departmental level, at the level of Julius being a director in the department and being a level like a lower level that reports to the accounting office. So the redeployment and the withdrawal and so forth, I was not part of the process. So she is washing her hands of the suspension, of the decision to uplift the suspension and of the decision to direct that his redeployment should be back to his initial position. What is your response to that? I mean, there is a direct conflict between your evidence and her evidence. Are you standing by your evidence? Are you saying that has testified falsely to this commission?
Thank you, Chairperson. I think on the initial transcript, the first page you read, I can't
31,
get to it.
31.
Yeah, page 29. There's where she talks about they. What I would like to put to the commission, then I'm going to answer. If anybody has been following up all our statements here, one way or the other, Chief of Police, Mkwanazi and Advocate Kemi, if I'm not mistaken, there's some consistency of Dr. Mashazi being involved. And I don't think all of us, we can just throw her name and say she was not involved. I also don't think all of us, we can just say we want to protect Julius Mkwanazi. All of us, and put ourselves in this situation. And I've even said yesterday that we got involved when, in fact, Chief of Police and Mkwanazi started bringing this thing to Dr. Mashazi, where they met in some place, I can't remember now. And then she said also involved HOD, or I was acting at the time. In our statements, we further say that at some point, she had a meeting. I even said yesterday, sometimes it was telephonically. I'm saying it was in person. This is our evidence, most of us. And up to the end, Chair, to the end of the DC, the last evidence in all of our files, people that are involved here, when it was decided to stop the process, whereby in one of the evidences said herself, Advocate Kemi and Chief sat and have this discussion. It would be very strange that all of us were turning against Dr. Mashazi. And I think on balance of probabilities...
Sorry, Mrs. Asheka, I don't need you to justify it. I just needed to put it to you. And I have seen all of the evidence, and you're right, it is consistent. But I just needed you to know clearly that she is saying something else, and I just needed you to confirm that notwithstanding what she says, you stand by what you say, and what is independently confirmed by several other people.
I stand by what I said. Instructions were given. Sorry, Chair. I think majority of the time were lawful, and we had to abide. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last one, Mr. Chaskalson, sorry, on the same transcript, the end of page 24, continuing up to 25, line 10, where Dr. Mashazi is even more explicit because she says both the upliftment of the suspension and his redeployment were done on the advice of HOD Kacheka. Do you see that, Mrs. Kacheka? It starts from page 24, the very last line. She's being asked whether you were advising or you were instructing, and she says, as if she was instructing, because it was emails back and forth between the two HODs. If she was instructive in nature, I was actually going to intervene. But now it was between the two of them, and subsequent to the emails between the two of them, the chief himself uplifted the suspension and redeployed Mkwanazi to how he was advised by the HOD. And then he says, that's you.
Chair, in my letter of suspension, I think the first paragraph, second sentence or the first sentence, it says, it came to my attention. And I said when I was referring to that yesterday that the attention I got to be told by the accounting officer. And another way of trying to support what I'm saying, I think majority of the time when I communicate, even with chief of police or anybody, I CC her. And the CCing, it shows that whatever we discussed and she said we must do, it's done. It's going to be difficult and it's a bit disappointing where we are in this situation because of the instructions of the accounting officer, and then she feels she must exonerate herself, and all of us must take the brunt. It's a very disappointing situation, Chair, but I'm sticking by what I said. The instructions were given by her, and all of us, we confirmed the people who brought statements here. Thank you so much, Chair.
Mr. Shega, in your discussion with the chairperson, you were talking about complying with, and you comply if it's a reasonable instruction. If the city manager gave you, as you say, she gave you the instruction to uplift the suspension, why did you consider that to be a reasonable instruction to comply with?
Thank you, Chair. I read yesterday the DPCA 16.4, and I said it gives you either or. And because it at least allows, remember it does say 3 months, in exceptional cases you can extend. So she's covered in that 3 months. And in the debate you'll have with her, when I'm saying, but we can extend, she will say, no, it says 3 months and therefore it must happen. And as I say, the mere fact even Mr. Ngleza drafted the letter and I signed it. There was a leeway for her, for us to continue with that process.
You agreed to extend the suspension, so you obviously would have applied your mind to the request to extend the extension, and you considered it appropriate and within the prescripts. You now get a call from the city manager, who is not an HR person. She's not an HR. You are the HR boss in Ekurhuleni. She's not that. She's your client when it comes to matters of HR, right? You're nodding, yes. You've considered and you found there is merit to extend. That's what you agree with Mr. Ngleza. You were prepared to do it. The city manager who is a layperson on issues like this, gives you an instruction to not to extend, to actually uplift the extension. You do not even let it lapse. You write a letter, you say it's not being extended. You change your mind because you get an instruction. And my question is, and DPSA has nothing to do with it. She hasn't told us that she looked at the DPSA, as Mr. Chaskalson says. She says she relied on your advice. And I accept that you say that's not true. So we know from what she said in testimony that she didn't apply her mind to it at all. According to her, she depended on your advice. What did you consider to make her instruction to be reasonable, that you comply with it?
It was the first part of, as I say, our debate and discussion was on the first part of 16.4, that the disciplinary process must take place within 3 months. And at that time...
Did you, let me short circuit this. Did you advise the city manager not to extend? Because that's what she says.
No.
Right, so it can be both. You have to choose that, yes, I advised her that it's okay not to extend, or I was acting on instruction. She ordered me that we will not extend. It's one of the two.
Respectfully, Commissioner, I don't think there will be two possibilities in this situation. And I appeal for your indulgence to hear what I'm getting at. I'm saying let's extend and conclude so that EMPD can conclude the matter. She says, and I was consistent yesterday, she says, why did HR not complete this process? You've concluded the investigation. You are it is at an advanced stage. That's what my statement says. Therefore, there is no need for you, HR, to extend the suspension. Mr. Mkwanazi must come back to work. This is where things went.
Which then makes me ask, and again, it's about I'm going to use the word competence because I can't think of another word now. It then raises questions about your own competence then, that you initially agreed, so you would have considered those things that you now say came from the city manager. You would have considered them, otherwise you're incompetent, that you didn't think, oh, they have conducted the investigation, they're close to finishing. It's actually not necessary to keep the the suspension in place. If you did not consider those factors, then it says something about your competence. If you considered them, and then the city manager simply repeats them to you, you still have to say, why did you consider her to be superior to you in terms of reasoning or factors to be taken into account? And so, yeah, I'm back to, it's one or the other. You considered them and you satisfied yourself that this can be extended. That's why you agreed with Mr. Ngqiza. Something else happens, and it cannot be the city manager repeated the same things to you. Something else happened that made you change your mind because you already had a view. She can't repeat the same thing and then you say, yeah, because it comes from the city manager, it's reasonable.
Chair, through you, I'm saying there are discussions that are taking place. Initially, I satisfied myself. We do it. We do extend, sometimes we don't extend. That's how it is, based on how far the investigation is.
So there was no instruction from the city manager. You had a debate and she persuaded you differently. There was no instruction from her.
I think you're battling to hear me. That's why I'm really trying to
I'm
be
not.
slow.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not battling to hear you. I understand you. I hear and I understand you perfectly. You either had an instruction from the city manager or you did not. You now speak about a debate. And I say, well, you either acted because of an instruction, which you say, I must comply with, or you debated. You had formed a view, you debated, and she persuaded you differently. In the latter case, it's not an instruction. If the latter happened, then there was no instruction from the city manager, then she's right when she says, I never gave an instruction. Or she did give you an instruction. And it takes us back to, well, why did you think this was a reasonable instruction? But forget that second part of why do you think it's a reasonable instruction is I'm saying to you, you either were persuaded different, and there's nothing wrong. If you had started with that, without saying she instructed me, if you had started with, yes, I formed a view, but when I had a conversation with the city manager, I actually saw things differently. I think that would have been the end of this debate with you. But that's not what you say. You say you got an instruction and she's not telling the truth when she said she never instructed you.
Thank you, Chair. I've said from yesterday, I'm really trying to be slow because I think maybe yesterday I was rushing and I was not heard properly. You will debate issues with her. She will give you an instruction. I think that's the part I need you to hear. She will give you an instruction. And if I was not competent, I'll just say, yes, boss, and then move with it. I will advise against the instruction where I'm uncomfortable. We'll engage, and I've said most of the time you find out that legally she's equipped. After the debate, she will still say, I am saying to you, do this and that. And I wanted to talk to the competence issue because now you've raised it. And hence yesterday I've said, before and after the instruction has been given, I engage on issues because you cannot be at my level where you are told, do this, you say yes, but I've been very consistent on that. Instructions are given, I debate, and I'm still told you're gonna go and do it this way. And I wasn't trying to be disrespectful when I was saying you can test her character to the highest level. She will allow you to debate, but after debate, what she has said must happen, must happen. I don't think, I'm finishing, between me, Chief of Police, Xolani Advocate Kemi, we don't even know, I don't know Mkwanazi. I started knowing Mkwanazi during this case. I don't think all of us would want to shield Mkwanazi, and I don't think we had any reason to shield Mkwanazi.
The suggestion is you were shielding him to please the city manager. That's the evidence. That's a complaint against you. It is, you may not have known him. Maybe you met him for the first time at the city of Ekurhuleni. That's not even the conversation. The complaint against you is you did not, firstly, you uplifted his suspension because you were pleasing the city manager and you were rewarded for it financially. 2, you did not do anything. You frustrated or contributed to the frustration of the disciplinary process against him because you were doing the city manager's bidding and you were rewarded for it. That's the accusation against you. So it doesn't help for you to say, I didn't know him. We're looking at your conduct where there's a clear case of serious misconduct, serious, which in another forum should see Commissioner Mkwanazi go to jail. You become aware of it. You see the charge sheet, it's serious matter. You say, well, they made an agreement, I wasn't involved with it. You say I was instructed. You say I did a forensic investigation, which has nothing to do with the charges. And the explanation from your colleagues who have testified is your role in all of this is explained by you were working with a city manager who was protecting, they say. She was protecting Mkwanazi. You helped her. And you got rewarded for it. Those are the allegations against you.
Let me give you an example that is sensitive. Beyond this, I won't say much. Today, in 2023, I think that was the first month we suspended Mkwanazi. My mom passed on. The following weekend, she was buried on Sunday. Monday, I was called to come back to work. And I said, on Mondays, since in Beki, because we bury on Sunday, I was told if I'm not back at work the following day, I'll be dealt with. That was around 4 o'clock on Monday, that conversation. I had to drive from Queenstown to here, to Joburg. Didn't sleep, I'm a firstborn at home. Never slept. When we're driving, my husband had to stop me while we were sleeping at Bloemfontein. Because you are tired and the car keeps on getting out of the road. The following day I was in the office doing interviews. I've never known my mom. On top of that, 5 days were deducted from my salary for burying my mother. So in that period, between February and up to the end of 2023, why would I be loyal to such a person? So I really want this misperception that says some of us were loyal to Dr. Mashazi to be seen differently. It wasn't about loyalty. It was about how we advise and if our advice is taken or not taken. And I thought yesterday I was assisting myself and the commission when I said, there's an executive authority, Ekurhuleni. And ultimately, she's fully accountable in everything that is done. And I'm refuting anything that says, in that year, I was loyal to Dr. Mashazi, whereas I went through what I went through. What I'm saying to the commission, we debated on matters. We debated on instructions. Ultimately, she will hear you. Hence, I'm saying, get somebody who's not involved. Leave all of us. Bring another witness who's going to tell you that after debate, she will still have her word done. I really, hence I said yesterday, even on the issue of our increases, she came to me and said, why is Meral supporting you? You know, she pushed it because maybe she had no choice. We did a motivation. It went to the remuneration committee. It went to Meral. That is the loyalty issue. Maybe we're loyal to the authority, the position, not the individual. And lastly, Commission, I want to leave here with a clear tone. Instructions are given, I advise. After advising, if there's an ultimate instruction given, you have to comply. And it's 4 of us, against her or against Julius Mkwanazi. You know, you have to understand the complexity, and the only way you're gonna be assisted is to bring somebody else who is not involved in this matter to deal with it. Thank you, Chair.
I think the issue, the Chair earlier on raised it as someone at your level of seniority, that you're executing instructions like this. And hence my question earlier to you, what is reasonable about the instruction? Because you say, I comply with reasonable instructions. Now, if an instruction is unreasonable and you still comply with it, it makes us ask questions about you and why you would do that which you did. So that's the context or the prism within which you should look at this, that you are employed, you're a Section 56 employee, as I understand. The decision to employ you is not the city manager's decision, as I understand these things. You can correct me if I'm wrong. The decision to fire you is not the city manager's decision. Ultimately, she can lay a complaint against you and you get disciplined, but it's not her decision. And then you are making these decisions, you become party to decisions that do not make sense, because it does not make sense that you ordered the upliftment, and you ordered it because it's in your letter, it's in your handwriting, in the same way that you keep saying, well, Chief Mapiaye wrote the letter, and therefore it's him. It applies to you too. You wrote the letter uplifting the suspension. It's not good enough, is the point at least that I'm making. For someone of your seniority, it's not good enough to say, I acted on instruction. It's not. You're supposed to bring to bear your professional guidance on matters like this. Nowhere does it record you disagreed with the city manager. Nowhere. Nowhere does it say, you don't give us an email, you don't give us a memorandum, you don't give us a WhatsApp message that says, I disagreed and I told her that I disagree with this, but I implemented because she instructed me and said she'll deal with me if I don't. What we have is her saying she acted on your advice. That's what's on record. With you, we do have a footprint of your letter uplifting the suspension. So it's you who uplifted the suspension. And you must take accountability. And in the same way that you say Chief Mapiaye should take accountability for his letter, even if he says I was pressured, he must take accountability because he wrote that letter and signed it off, stopping the disciplinary process. Same applies to you. Take accountability for, yes, I uplifted the suspension. Yes, I was wrong to follow that instruction because it was an unreasonable instruction. Not try and justify it as we debated. And then she then at the end of it said, I'm instructing you. Say she instructed me and I should not have followed that instruction. That's all we are asking you to do, is accept it's a wrong instruction to uplift the suspension where the city manager overrides your position. It was a wrong instruction for her to give you. And you should not have followed it. You did follow it, but do at least own up to it and say, I should not have followed that instruction.
Chair, through you, I think it becomes very difficult when we have to concede on issues when you contemplate them differently. And while you put your statement here, I've been very consistent that instructions are given, I do advise, and I do debate on issues. Ultimately, if it's reasonable, and the reason I'm saying it's reasonable to me, extending for 6 months, it's the right thing to do. But where the problem is with that clause, it says 3 months, within 3 months, finish the disciplinary process. And if you don't finish it within 3 months, the employee must come back to work. In exceptional circumstances, you can extend it. When I signed the first one, I agreed to sign the extension. It was based that at least you can stay up to 6 months. And there are circumstances where we say employees come back because the process has advanced. And I've said yesterday, I want the context. I will accede where I have to accede, but I really wanted the context to be given. A chairperson, in the sense that 3 months was concluded. And HR did, in our space, have irregularities. Chair. I'm taking that Dr. Mashazi is wrong. If you want me to say I could have done things better, I will do so. But we also played a critical role on that process not being concluded. And I'm not sure then when I was testifying here if all this will be integrated and before decisions are made. But I'm appealing to the Commission that when utterances are made, can we at least also talk to the context of how the matters have been discussed? You know, the process was frustrated, I get that. And I'm saying we could have done things better. And it's really a pity, I'm gonna repeat before I concede to this, that Dr. Mashazi wouldn't know all these things. As we decide to wake up and protect Julius, what for? What for? And I wouldn't want to get to a situation where my competencies are being challenged without me trying to put a context on my side, Chairperson. I wouldn't want to. Hence, I keep on saying, whereas instructions are made, are discussed, a person is advised, but ultimately, if you are a decision maker, you can even override what I'm saying and write your own letter, or I assist and write the letter. Kolani drafted the upliftment, and I signed it, and 3 months have passed. Kolani decided when the 3 months have passed to still think, do I discipline or I don't discipline? Those things must be taken into context.
Thank you.
I'm appealing with you.
Thank you, Mr. Shekhar.
Can I just ask one follow-up question? I mean, you know the prescripts that apply in the municipality. You've told us you spent many years in the city of Joburg. You are now in the city of Ekurhuleni. Is it lawful and appropriate for a city manager to involve herself in issues of suspension and discipline of an employee at a level where Julius Mkwanazi was in May and June 2023? Is it appropriate and lawful for her to be involved?
Chair, according to the delegations, as much as, remember, ultimately delegations are hers, accountabilities, she's the ultimate authority here. There's sub-delegations into these matters, but it doesn't mean because there's sub-delegations, she cannot still assume her delegations. I've said earlier on in my statement, this matter is the Chief of Police and Mkwanazi who brought her into it. If in the beginning, they wouldn't have said, okay, this one has got proximity to the accounting officer, let's go and consult her. That's where this whole thing started. And then she started following it up. Remember, if you read their statement between Henny and Kolani, while Kolani has not yet disciplined, is still contemplating, they might go to jail, they might not go to jail, let me not discipline. Henny sensitized them that the time is moving. And by the 23rd, when he sensitized them, the 24th is the last day of the 90 days. You know, what do they do there? If you read their statement, I want to finish, Chair. I really want to, Chair. I'm going to come to it.
Is it appropriate? Yes, it is appropriate. No, it's not appropriate. I don't want to hear about what Kemi did or what Ngiza did. I just ask a simple question. Is it appropriate for a municipal manager to involve themselves at that level with the suspensions of employees at that level? If it is appropriate, you can say, yes, it is. If it's not appropriate, you can say, no, it's not. And that's what I'm asking you to do. Assume we've read these laws, assume we've read the records, assume we've heard your statement, assume we've heard what you said yesterday. All I want for now is it appropriate, yes, or it's not appropriate?
Ideally, Chair, City Manager should have said when they said, we want to discipline Mkwanazi and say, it's your role, deal with it, don't involve me. Therefore, it doesn't look good. It's not appropriate because those are lower level. And the contradiction, remember, when we're discussing recruitment, Chief complaining, she says to Chief, below this level, don't be involved because you are dealing with a higher level. It's the same as her.
Exactly.
But all I'm saying, Chair, I know even my legal team, I'm sure they're going to reprimand me. I'm not trying to over-explain myself as if I'm hiding something, but I'm trying to refute the statements and the allegations Dr. Mashazi is doing against all of us, that she should not have involved herself from the beginning.
You see, now you've answered me. You didn't have to take that long route. Thank you.
Let's adjourn and come back at 22. May we see council outside, please?